Hello everybody and welcome to Ghost, my bow two-handed stamina Templar build for the Scalebreaker patch in the Elder Scrolls Online. Ghost is a very fast, very high damage build. It is very mobile. We've got absolutely fantastic sustain, and this patch we've got some pretty serious burst healing power as well, which is something that Ghost didn't have as much of in the past. Ghost is a very good solo play build. I think for especially this patch with a heavy damage over time meta, playing something like a Templar that has access to a very strong purge is a really good option this patch. I will say this though, medium armor is not in a very good spot this patch. So we've got the strong purge and the Templar working for us, but the fact that we're in medium, it's just not the best patch to be playing medium. It was much more powerful subjectively last patch than it is this patch. That being said though, I honestly didn't have super high hopes for Ghost coming into Scalebreaker, but just due to the fact that we have this super heavy damage over time meta, I'm still finding the Templar to be a very effective counter to the meta that we're playing today. Now, something that is really cool about Ghost this build is that we have access to Fear, so we did lose our Onslaught ultimate, so our big boy burst is a little bit lower than it used to be, but we have the Fear, so we have an option to shut down blocking opponents where we didn't before. So offensively, I would say Ghost is about the same as it was last patch. Defensively, I would say it is a little bit weaker just due to the changes to medium armor, but all around a very powerful build and one that really flexes your ability in this game and lets you take some really incredible fights with a little bit of practice. So I hope that you guys enjoy the build. Without further ado, let's get into it. So to begin, I am a Wood Elf on this build. Now, Wood Elf is definitely the best race choice for a build like this, and this is simply because Wood Elf gets the 10% movement speed bonus after roll dodge. That 10% movement speed bonus stacks on everything, and this essentially means that Wood Elf has the fastest Mist form in the game. Now, we do use Mist form a lot on this build, and outside of Mist, we still want that movement speed bonus because this is a very, very movement-intensive build, and movement is very important for our survivability and even to set our combos. So there we go. You definitely want to be Wood Elf for that reason. Orc is not a terrible option, but Orc does not get the movement speed bonus while in Mist, only while sprinting. So Wood Elf wins against Orc for that reason. Redguard's not bad either. Nord isn't an awful choice. It is a little bulkier, but ideally I think you want to go for that speed, damage, and regen. Those are definitely the stats that matter for a build like this. Now, taking a look at our max stats on this build, compared to Ghost last patch, we've gone down a little bit more in our max stat, but that's okay. We make up for it with more weapon damage on this patch, but taking a look at it, we got 11k Magicka, 24k HP, and 25.5k stamina. Now, I have a few tri-stat Hacky Joes on, so we could have 26 to almost 27k stamina on this build if I didn't have those glyphs, but I just didn't want to replace them because they are fairly expensive. 24k HP actually might be on the higher side, to be perfectly honest. You could get away with 22k or less on a build like this, but I wouldn't drop below 20k on Ghost, just because we don't really have access to stealth. Mist form can really save us from burst, but you want to have 22k plus, I think, for Ghost this patch. Now, taking a look at the regen side of things, this is where the build starts to get pretty sweet. We've got 1,271 mag recovery, 1,188 health recovery, and 2,415 stamina recovery. Now, our regen is much better than it was last patch, and there are a few reasons for that. First of all, our Magicka recovery is about the same as last patch. Very important that we have a lot of mag sustain on this build. If we don't, we cannot purge and we cannot use Mist form. In this patch, it is an incredibly punishing dot meta to play, and even if you play something like a Templar that has access to the purge, you oftentimes will find yourselves just getting melted by the dots even when you're trying to purge them off. So that's why I say, especially this patch, you want to have a lot of mag recovery on a Templar just so you have access to that purge. Now, the health recovery is, again, because of the dot meta. Now, our fully buffed health recovery is sitting at 1,200 on this spec, and when we sprint, it actually gets a little bit higher, 1,330. Our mag recovery also goes up a little bit too. But the big thing about the health recovery is that we are a vampire, and while you're in Mist form, your health recovery continues to tick. It's the only source of healing in the game that continues to go through onto you, regardless of whether you enter Mist form or not, because Mist form will shut off all your other sources of healing. So your health recovery becomes incredibly valuable, because if you're low HP and you're in Mist form, those health recovery ticks make a huge difference because of your undeath and just how bulky Mist form makes you. So having 1200 health recovery on this build essentially means that our Mist form is going to be a lot better than it was last patch. That's about double the health recovery we used to have, so our Mist form will be quite a bit stronger, and we will feel that thanks to this change. Now, taking a look at the weapon damage on this build, this is where things start to get a little bit crazy. We've got 4,846 weapon damage when we buff up. Now, we are running the Infused Enchant on our back bow, and that's going to bring us up to around 5.5k weapon damage, actually a little bit higher than that. And on top of it, we get Minor Brutality from our poisons. So fully buffed on this build, we are just shy of 6k weapon damage. If I upgraded all my gear to gold on this bad boy, we would probably be sitting at just that 6k value, maybe just 10 or 20 weapon damage short. But a massive amount of weapon damage on this build. So this is more than going to make up for our lower maximum stamina pool. We've got the lower max stam pool, the super high regen, and the massive weapon damage. This is very indicative of a high regen burst build. This is exactly how they get put together, and this is, I think, the best way to build them because they function best this way. You get a massive amount of damage and healing, and then you get the stam pool you need to do the things you want to do with it, and enough regen to help you keep that stam pool going. Now, the weapon crit on this build is sitting at 44% on our front bar, and on the back bar we're at 42, almost 43%. Our weapon crit has actually gone down a little bit this patch compared to previous patches, but because of the changes to Rally being a much stronger base burst heal than it used to be, we actually have what feels like better healing this patch than when we had the higher crit rates in the previous patches. Now, taking a look at our resistances and our crit resist on this build, Ghost is not a very bulky build, but our resists are better than they were last patch. We got 23k spell and 23k physical resist with 2,600 critical resistance. Really nice stuff, not crazy high, but for medium armor, actually pretty respectable. The reason these are a little bit higher than base medium armor values is because, well, we are standing inside our circle, which gives us a little bit more. If we go outside the circle, you can see we drop to around 20k, and we have the 7th Legion set on, which gives us 1 line of physical resistance. So we get a little bit of bulk from some of the sets we're running, but for the most part, we do not focus here. The most important stat's going to be that crit resist more than anything else. And then taking a look at the Mundus, we are sticking with the Steed this patch. Now, I had come up with a way to put more weapon damage on Ghost, as well as maintaining the movement speed that we used to have. But sticking with the Steed Mundus this patch because of that health recovery. The health recovery is so important with this thought meta, and yeah, I just couldn't give it up. So the 10% movement speed plus the health recovery, of course, is worth more than the weapon damage alternative for our Mundus if we were to go Swift, but yeah, it's only because of that health recovery. It's just worthwhile for this thought meta. Taking a look at our Vampirism. We're stage 4, and you have to be a vampire for this build. We use Mist form. Without Vampirism, you could play a build like this, but on the Templar especially, I think Vampirism is a fantastic fit for this style of burst build. It just gives you the tools you need to get out of those situations where the rest of your Templar kit won't save you. And then for the food, we've got the Smoked Bear Haunch, and this is definitely the way to go for food on this build. The Orzorga Smoked Bear Haunch, one of my favorite foods in the game. It gives you so much stats. We get 4,300 health, we get 400 health recovery, and 370 magicka and stamina recovery. All 3 sustains and the max health, perfect for this style of build. And then for the potions we're using on this spec, we are actually using the Tri-Stat potions. We've got all of our buffs covered in our kit, so we don't need to get any buffs from our potions here, so we can focus purely on sustain from the potion side of things, giving us all 3 of our major recovery buffs. Very important because we just have a great sustain pools for everything across the board. Now, taking a look at the sets we're using on this build, guys. We've made quite a few changes from Ghost last patch, so be prepared. The first big change we have is we're not running Slimecraw. We actually have Kenna and Veladrith on. 1-piece Kenna, 1-piece Veladrith. Now, you could run a monster set here of your choice as well. It's totally up to you. Even Bloodspawn would actually be a great option here if you want, and you could take off one of the stamina recovery glyphs that I have in the jewelry. But I went with Kenna Veladrith because this is going to stack some of the highest weapon damage that we can push on this build and give us a good consistent value for that. Even the 2-piece Kenna would be an option, but yeah, the 2 one-line weapon damages here, just because we're stacking that weapon damage so far, the damage and healing. The next set that we have is the Griffon set, and this is staying the same this patch, and for good reason. The 2 minor buffs that it gives are so important for a build like Ghost. Minor crit damage bonus and the minor movement speed buff. Really, really nice buffs. Both of them really critical. We need that damage and we need that speed. So, yeah, sticking with that Griffon set. Weapon crit, weapon damage. Also nice 2, 3, 4 piece for it. Now, taking a look at our next set, we have got the 7th Legion set on our bow bar. And the 7th Legion was a set that was changed in the Scalebreaker patch. We now get weapon damage, health recovery, weapon crit, and when we cast an ability that increases our physical or spell resist, we gain 337 weapon damage and health recovery for 10 seconds on a 10-second cooldown. Now, if we fully upgrade this set, it's 350 weapon damage and health recovery. That's another bit of the reason why I'm not quite at that 6k value, because I have not upgraded my gear on the live server yet. But man, what a really fantastic set. You know, this was a great set last patch, but we have a lot more control how we're going to proc this set this patch, because it procs off of our armor buff. Templar gets an incredibly cheap armor buff. It's like 800 stamina for us to use our buff, so it's a really easy ability to come by for us and a really easy proc to get. The weapon damage and health recovery, perfect for a build like Ghost. We just need both of them, so it's absolutely fantastic. And we can run it on the back bar, which is really great. And when we swap to the front bar, we only lose the one line of weapon crit. And then we've got the Scalebreaker Greatsword for the weapon damage on the front bar here. So our 7th Legion set in this 5-piece slot plus the front bar gives us over 600 weapon damage in this 5-piece slot here. Versus something like Swordslinger, which used to give us about the same value, but it was only for our Greatsword skills. And a big reason why I've switched to the 7th Legion set is because we're not using that Greatsword ultimate as well. So we have to focus on stacking raw weapon damage. So there you go, guys. A lot of changes to the gear on the build this patch, and I like it. It's a lot more defensively sound than it used to be, while still maintaining that same level of offensive pressure, so I think that's important. And then, of course, we've got the Brutality Draining Poison, like I mentioned earlier. This is going to give us the minor brutality on our front bar when it procs. 20% chance whenever we deal damage with our Greatsword on our front bar. Our ultimate won't proc this, though, and our Fear won't proc this, but we're going to be using a lot of light attacks and a lot of Greatsword skills, so when this does proc, we will be hitting very, very hard. Now, let's take a look at the skills we're running on the build, and quite a few changes from last patch on Ghost as well. We're going to start off on the Greatsword bar. This is our primary damage / healing bar. So the first skill we have is Executioner, and this is going to be your primary finisher for the build. Now, one thing I want to mention is that the tooltips on this build are a little bit lower than they would be when we're in combat. We do have minor Berserk on the build, but it's only while we're actively in combat this patch. So keep in mind that the tooltips should be about 8% higher than they are from what you guys see here, assuming we were fully buffed up as well. So the Executioner, of course, being that finishing move, ZeniMax buffed it this patch to deal even more bonus damage as your opponent's health begins to drop, so a really good finish for this build. And we've got a pretty beefy tooltip, around 6.5k or so when we fully buff with the Berserk, so nice stuff. Critical Rush, our primary gap closer, and our primary spammable because it has no minimum distance anymore. 6,900 damage tooltip on it. This is going to go up to about 7.5k, so our crit rush is actually stronger this patch than it was from the last iteration of Ghost that we did, and we're not even running the Swordslinger set. So a big update to the amount of weapon damage and just raw firepower that we have on this build this patch. And yeah, 50% bonus damage based on the distance traveled, and it's always a critical strike. It's a very, very strong move for this build. A very strong spammable as well, just because it has fairly high base damage. Even if we're not far away from the target, the guaranteed crit can put a lot of pepper into our opponent. So there we go. Now, the next skill that we have is Camouflaged Hunter, and this is here for a few massive reasons this patch. In fact, Camo Hunter is pretty much a must-have stamina slot for medium armor builds, I think, for PvP. And this is why. We get the Major Savagery, so we get that weapon critical buff. Very important, 10% weapon critical. Really nice stuff. We get the Minor Berserk when we land a crit from an enemy's flank for 8% increased damage. Now, on a speed medium armor build like this, we should literally always be trying to attack from our enemy's flank. We should never be standing in front of them and always trying to move behind them while attacking. So there we go. It just fits really well into the playstyle of this build, giving us really easy, free access to that Minor Berserk for that massive 8% damage increase. 8% is a huge damage increase. And then finally, we also get a little bit of weapon damage, 3% additional weapon damage for slotting Camouflaged Hunter here, which just plays into the fact that we are stacking so much weapon damage on this build. So yeah, really, really fantastic passive slot for this build. And last but not least, it is our Stealth Detect if we need one. And yeah, with this and the Fear from the Fighters Guild this patch, we actually have a pretty nasty combo to bring down Nightblades when they try to stealth around us. Now, the next ability we have is Rally. This has been changed this patch to only last for 20 seconds, but it's also going to be access to that major brutality like last patch. We additionally gain minor endurance from it this patch for 10% additional stamina recovery. There's a big reason why our sustain is just so much better this patch, because we get the minor endurance that we didn't have from before. And then when you activate Rally and then reactivate it before the duration is over, or if you just let it expire, you get that nice big fat burst heal. The longer you wait, the bigger the burst heal on Rally is. On Ghost on the live server, this will crit for 15k or higher when you use it. You can almost guarantee that if you're smart with your Rally and keep it up, it will nearly be a full HP heal every single time you use it on a build that has this much firepower. It's a very, very strong heal this patch, a very strong burst heal this patch, but you have to keep it up. If you let your Rally go down, you're going to be in massive trouble. So you just got to make sure you keep it up every 20 seconds, and it is one of, if not the best stamina burst heal in the game. It's starting to really rival even the Beetles from the Warden burst heal, because it's so much cheaper than the Beetle heal. So really, really nice heal for the Templar here. It fits so well with this build, with our Purge this patch especially. Yeah, this is a nice change for Rally. I'm not going to lie. The Rally change, I do actually like this patch. Now, the next skill that we have is Turn Evil, and this is a big game changer for Ghost. Previously, we've been using the Javelin here, and there were two reasons why we used the Javelin. Number one, it dealt quite a lot of damage. It was a good distance stun, and it was fast to cancel. And then number two, it was an Adric Spear skill, so we get that critical damage bonus on our front bar here. Now, we are using the Adric Spear ultimate, so we don't need to slot the Spear skill for that critical damage bonus. Instead, we can slot Turn Evil for a different type of stun. Now, what Turn Evil does is it fears in a 5-meter radius around you. You also gain minor protection and minor endurance while you're standing in the circle. We get the minor endurance from our greatsword, and the minor protection that we get here actually makes up for the fact that we lose the minor protection because we're not running the Javelin anymore. So we get a little bit of that minor protection makeup there. But that fear, man, it is an AoE stun. It can hit an unlimited number of targets, and it fears them. Ghost in the past has always struggled against a target that could hold block forever against it. And this patch, we have something to drop someone's block. So it gives us the opportunity to take down some tanks that we just could not take down last patch. But because of the changes to the Greatsword Ultimate, we can't take down some other tanks that we could take down last patch. So it's a little bit of a change for the offensive kit for Ghost. The fact that we get fear now helps make up for the fact that we don't have that same kind of armor pierce burst / that snappy burst that we used to with Ghost before. So there we go. This is just fantastic though. I really enjoy using the fear, especially defensively. My only gripe with the fear is when you're trying to chase someone down, you can oftentimes miss the fear if they're running away from you. So it can be a very hard stun to use if your opponent's just running away. Now, the next ability that we have is Crescent Sweep. This is going to be your primary spammable ultimate for the build. We're going to buff up so you guys can see this tooltip, and we'll talk about why we went with the Crescent Sweep morph. So to start off, we've got the 10,600 damage tooltip, 60% bonus on that, so almost a 17k Crescent Sweep on this build, and then an additional 4k magic damage every 2 seconds for 6 seconds. This is, of course, all Adric Spear damage, so it can proc the Burning Light proc. Just going to deal a lot of additional damage when those burning lights go off, and it costs 72 ultimate, so it is very, very cheap. This is the cheapest burst ultimate in the game. So there we go. Yeah, this is a really good ultimate this patch, simply because ZeniMax has completely butchered the single target burst ultimates. For a Stamina Templar, this is your best option for a cancelable burst ultimate. All of the other ultimates have cast times now, and, you know, I don't want to sound bad about it, but if you're going to use a cast time ultimate against a skilled player, you will likely never land that ultimate on them. So it almost is like a wasted slot if you're fighting a more experienced opponent. And that's why I really decided to go for the Crescent Sweep this patch and completely rebuild Ghost around Crescent Sweep, because we just couldn't stick with the Greatsword Ultimate. I tried it on the live server once the changes had hit, and man, I died so many times trying to land that stupid Berserker Strike with the cast time. I missed the ultimate so many times against an opponent who just dodge rolled or blocked it. So all I can really say is Crescent Sweep is definitely not as powerful as the Berserker Strike, but because you can cancel it, it is way superior for PvP. And when you start to fight more and more experienced opponents, this ultimate is better and better comparatively to your other burst ultimates. So that's why we've gone with Crescent, guys. Now, let's talk about the pros of Crescent. It is actually a very strong burst ultimate, and it is very cheap, plus the Burning Light. This can deal a massive amount of damage. Even though it is a magic damage ultimate, it is still going to deal more than the physical damage morph. That's just because of that 60% additional damage bonus. It is super huge, and it just gives us a lot of AoE pressure as well, so we can actually put good pressure into the side of a group with this ultimate. And it has 8-meter radius, this patch. It used to have less radius, so it is nice that we can actually reliably land this. So yeah, this is the burst ultimate for the build, and that's the big change here. So the next bar that we've got is our bow bar, and this is your primary kite bar slash your combo setting bar. The first ability we have is Poison Injection. This is your primary damage over time for the build. It's going to deal more damage as your opponent's health begins to drop below 50%. And yeah, pretty decent dot damage. 12.7k tooltip without any buffs. Not bad at all. This is just pretty much there for combo setting. It's going to start wearing your opponent down and, of course, give you those nice big fat ticks as their health begins to drop. Really important for Ghost to just help us get that closing finish potential, especially on a target that's too tanky for us to take down without setting our dots up to begin with. Now, the next ability we have is Power of the Light. This is usually the first kind of dot up ability you go for on the target, and that's because it gives the Minor Fracture, just reducing your opponent's physical resistance, which is really nice. Now, it's going to deal a little bit of upfront damage. It is undodgeable as well, which is nice because when you lead your first attack on an opponent, they often will dodge your first attack, not your second. So leading with an undodgeable attack means that they'll usually waste their first roll dodge. And then for 6 seconds, it'll copy the damage on your opponent and then release 20% of it as additional damage at the end of the duration, up to a maximum of 15k. Just playing into the burst that we have, we're going to Power the Light, Poison Injection, crit rush in, hit him with our ultimate, and then the portal will explode and we'll get a huge combo on these guys. Now, the next ability we have is Elusive Mist, and this is going to be one of your primary defensive skills for this build. Elusive Mist is pretty much your oh shit card for Ghost. You can use it a lot on this build, but I would recommend that you only use Mist when you really need to. It's fantastic for things like when you have a lot of opponents on you, you've got a lot of snares coming in, and you just need to make a peel around a corner while you're taking heavy pressure. Mist Form is going to significantly reduce the damage you take and prevent you from getting stunned and immobilized, so you can make that movement with this ability. Now, Mist Form shuts off your Magicka recovery, but this patch it is a lot cheaper than it was before, so we actually have easier access to Mist than we did last patch, which is pretty nice. And Mist Form, of course, also shuts off your healing, and that's why we've gone for the health recovery route, because the health recovery will continue to tick through our Mist Form. So even when our HP is very low, hugging our Mist is still kind of a viable option, depending on how much damage we have coming in. Now, the next ability we have is Extended Ritual, and this is an absolute must-have on any Templar build this patch. 5 harmful negative effects removed, and we get that heal over time. The heal over time is pretty decent, I'm not going to lie. It does scale with our weapon damage, so we get a pretty beefy heal over time with it. That plus our health regen, we can get almost a 4k heal tick with the two together, so not so bad. Allies in the circle can also purify all of the negative effects off themselves and get a little bit of a heal as well. But we've got this here to remove the 5 negative effects from ourselves. It's very expensive, 4,600 Magicka nearly, but we need to have that purge. There are so many dots this patch. On this build, if we didn't have this purge, there's no way this build would function. We'd be way too squishy. Even if we replace this with Vigor, we wouldn't have the healing power. There's no way that this build could function in this patch without purge. You absolutely must run purge on your Templar this patch. You absolutely must. It is just not going to be viable, especially if you want to play solo. You have to have a strong purge. Now, the next ability that we have is Restoring Focus, and this is here for a couple reasons. The first big one, of course, is that armor buff and that stamina recovery. It's the equivalent of about 480 stamina regen. Now, that regen is special because it continues to tick while we're blocking and roll dodging, etc. So it doesn't matter what we're actively doing in combat, we're always getting this stamina back, unlike our regular regen values. So very valuable for that reason. Now, while we're standing in the rune, we get a little bit of a bonus to our physical and spell resist, which brings brings us up to that 23k value if we really want to tank standing in our rune. And last but not least, this 800 cost stamina ability will proc our 7th Legion set. Now, 7th Legion only lasts for 10 seconds, but because this ability is so cheap, we can reliably recast it before its duration is over and have a really good uptime on our 7th Legion. And it's easy to control because it's cheap yet again, so it's really nice, especially the Templar. 7th Legion is such a fantastic fit. And then for the ultimate, we've got Temporal Guard. This is going to teleport us back to where we were 4 seconds ago, restoring our health, magicka, and stamina to where we were as well. Now, I'll say one thing. Precog is still bugged this patch. It has been 1 year of this ability being bugged on the live server, and ZeniMax has not fixed it yet. So I don't even want to say that it will get fixed. Just it's going to work 50% of the time. ZeniMax has no intention of fixing any of these bugs. I just don't have confidence in it, man. It's been a whole year, a whole freaking year of this ability not working, and they have not even attempted to fix it. So there we go. We're still using it though because it is still really good. Even if it only works half the time, when it does work, there's no other ultimate in the game that will save you where this ultimate will save you. And then of course it gives us that minor protection as well for that 8% reduced damage on our back bar. And then a fun little thing it gives is that that Psijic Guild passive that gives us the damage shield when we block, and we have the Psijic Guild ability slotted. This is just nice because, well, it gives us a little bit more durability when we block on our bow bar, which is our defensive bar, so we'll be doing a lot of blocking on this bar just to defend ourselves in medium armor. Yeah, nice for that reason. Okay, so let's take a look at the champion points that we've got on this build, guys. Starting off in the tower tree, we've got 23 Warlord, 1 in Siphoner. Focus on Warlord because we have to break free, and then I just had a point left over for the Siphoning. Taking a look at the Lover tree, we've got 43 Healthy, 43 Arcanist, and 64 Mooncalf. Just a massive stack for our regen. Focus, of course, on the stamina recovery because it is our highest regen, but we want everything, man. 10%, 10%, and 13%. Really nice stuff. Just fitting with the build. The important passive we get here, of course, is the Wind Running. 2% additional movement speed. It's not a lot, but we are playing a speed-based build, so everything counts. And then we increase our health and magicka recovery by 10% while sprinting, which is really nice as well. Taking a look at the Shadow, we've got 56 Tumbling and 40 Shadow Ward. Big focus on Tumbling. We are in medium armor. We're going to be doing a lot of roll dodging, but Shadow Ward, of course, we need to because we need to block in medium armor. Medium armor is all about that that reflexive gameplay style. You're actively dodging attacks, you're actively blocking attacks, etc. So we have to have points in both of these trees to make medium really work. Now, taking a look at our blue tree, we've got nothing in the Apprentice, 120 points in the Atronach, 81 Master at Arms, 39 Physical Weapon Expert. You could put some points in Shattering Blows this patch if you want, but it's kind of up to you if you want to have that extra damage against shields. The important passive that we get is the Tactician passive, though. We roll dodge to set an opponent off balance. This is great not only for that additional damage bonus that we get from our other tree, but the big thing is that off balance, we can stun our opponent with a partial charged or fully charged heavy attack. This just opens up a ranged stun on this build. We're going to be doing a lot of rolling, so we will very likely be setting our opponent off balance throughout the course of the fight, and that just means that we will easily be able to also stun them at a distance without our fear. So it gives us an extra stun on the build. In the gameplay, you guys will see how important the off balance is for a build like this. If you're playing this in no CP, you obviously won't have access to this because you don't have your champion points, but yeah, it really helps bring the build together. I honestly really like the off balance stun for a medium armor build with a bow. Now, taking a look at the ritual tree, we've got 49 mighty, 50 piercing, and 51 in precise strikes. Nice even spread here, not too focused on any one particular stat, so there we go. And then, of course, we got that important exploiter passive, 10% additional damage against an off-balance opponent. Really nice stuff. And then last stand for that major heroism. Major heroism isn't crazy important because our alts are already so cheap, minus maybe our Psijic alt, but our offensive alt is so cheap. If we get a kill with it, we will very likely have it up within the next few seconds anyway. But having the major heroism, defensively speaking, can be really nice. We have a very strong burst heal, so the chances of us coming back from 20% HP are very high, so we can really utilize this passive on a build like this. And then, of course, Perfect Strike for that 9% weapon crit as well. Now, taking a look at the red tree, we've got 61 Ironclad, 10 Spell Shield, 56 in Resistant, and 44 in Medium Armor Focus. A lot of points here. Big focus on Ironclad to reduce incoming direct damage. Direct damage is very deadly, but honestly, this patch, man, I didn't do it on the live server. We are playing a Templar with Purge. I might almost say take some points out of here and put them into Thick Skin, because there are so many dots this patch. I think putting some points into Thick Skin, even if you have access to the Purge like a Templar, could help. So I don't have the points there, but I would take like 10 out of Ironclad, maybe 10 out of Medium Armor Focus, and 5 out of Resistant, and put that all into Thick Skin to give us a little bit more resistance against that damage over time. Just because even with the Purge, we're going to have so many dots ticking on us because they just reapply them right away, or there's so many that we didn't purge them all off. Now, Resistant, that critical resist, very important, I think, especially in PvP. Even in the dot meta, the crit resist is going to help a lot. And then Spell Shield and Medium Armor Focus, just to balance out our resist to that 20.5k value or so. Now, taking a look at our Lady tree, we've got 37 Hardy, 37 Elemental Defender, and then the 2 in Thick Skin. Like I said, you could definitely put more in Thick Skin if you want here. I think it would be worthwhile for this patch. But the Hardy Elemental Defender, really nice, just to reduce our incoming physical and magical damage that we take. And then in the Lord tree, we've got a whopping 23 in Quick Recovery. I put a few points here because Rally is such a strong burst heal, and this is going to help our Rally. You don't really need this. Honestly, you'd probably be better off putting this into reducing damage over time yet again. But if you're very good at purging the dots, you probably get a little bit more out of having some points in here than not having any. So there you go, guys. That is the build, ladies and gentlemen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to jump into that PvP commentary. So we've got quite a few fights for you guys today, starting off with a little bit of solo stuff. There's a couple AD players that had just killed a blue player here. So I jump on top of the Nightblade, starting by dotting him up, and the other Nightblade starts to dot me up as well. We go for that counter purge, and we hit this guy with our ultimate as he comes out of stealth there. Big smack with the Adric Spear ult. Really nice to use this ultimate in particular, especially against opposing Nightblades, because it pulls them out of stealth as well. It's a big AoE smack, and the pulse afterwards allows you to finish off a Nightblade if you don't get the kill too. So I really like the ultimate for a few different reasons this patch. I mean, Onslaught ideally is the better ultimate when it doesn't have the cast time, but man, even with the cast time, this patch, really nice ultimate there. There you see we set down a great fear on that guy into the ultimate, but the opposing players respond with their heals right away. I kite back behind the rock, and I set down my purge. Watch a lot of the purge that we're doing in this fight. Throughout all of these fights, just watch how actively I'm using the purge on the Templar. Right now, we're not taking too much damage, but as soon as we get dotted up like this, the first thing we're going to do is purge off those negative effects and just kite back around the side of the rocks. Due to the heavy damage over time meta, I think the combination of kite and purge is pretty much one of the few ways you can kind of play a squishy build solo nowadays. I think if we didn't have the purge, man, just look how much damage these dots are doing, and we purged off twice, and we managed to get all of them after the second purge, but we've got to have that purge in order to make these fights work. So as I continue to fight on these rocks here, more and more of the blue players are coming in and reinforcing. So I decide, okay, we got to split up. We got to try to split this group a little bit. I'm not going to be able to take all 5 on just those rocks there. So I start sprinting through the field here. This guy's just ambushing on top of me. We get him with the fear stun. He's lower level player, so we just ignore him here and keep on pedaling back. Another player jumping on top of us. We dodge his attack, and we manage to get him with a nice partial charged heavy into the off-balance stun. We turn around again, hit these guys with the fear into the spear ultimate, and go for the executioner. Massive damage on that guy there, and we bring him down, and now we've got just 2 blue players left. Nice little block on that Dawnbreaker there. So important, especially on a medium armor build, just to hold block at those little times in between your abilities. You know, it does stifle your regen, but man, would take a lot more resource pressure if we don't block the attack and take the stun anyway. And here you see both players just applying the pressure. We've got quite a few dots to deal with here too. That soul trap dot, that damage over time, undodgeable, unblockables, tough to deal with, but Ghost does a good job dealing against this meta. Here you can see we're just actively purging when they dot us up and just kiting out the other player while we try to work on this player here that's a little bit squishier. We get a good fear there, but he responds with his heals right away, and we just kite back behind this tree here and reset our healing circles, etc. Now, a double Dragonite combo can be tough to deal with, especially the Mag DK as a vampire. The trick to it is to just kite out the Mag DK super hard and not let them hit you with any big combos. There you see, we finally managed to kill the Mag DK, but I expend about 1,000 too much stamina going for the kill there. We should have gone for the Mist form just to stay safe, and then we definitely would have been able to take that fight home. But nonetheless, moving on to our next clip here. We've got a bunch of blue players coming into this keep, and I just peel back around the corner after poking them, And we're going to see who follows us up around the corner. The first player comes around the corner. I hit him with the Power of the Light into the poison injection. There we see the Fear, the ultimate, the Executioner. So much burst. He goes down. And we're going to set down 2 Fears to stun both the opposing players as we come around the corner. Really enjoying the Fear stun on the Templar. A really nice combo. And here comes another friendly player around the corner, putting pressure into one of the blues as well. And the blues are starting to pile up. They want to res the guy that we killed here at the beginning. Get a great combo on that guy into my Spear ultimate, bringing another player down, and the AoE Fear on the stack, followed by the bash on the resing player. We managed to prevent all 3 players from attempting a res there, and we're going to come back around the top and back down, and the friendly Templar has picked off another blue player here. We're just going to keep applying pressure, keep reapplying the Fears as well, and just keep the stuns down. Now, this is a massive difference versus Ghost last patch, and a big reason why I wanted to show you this fight in particular. Ghost last patch would not be able to stand on the bodies like that and stun everybody and prevent them from resing. But this patch, because we have that AoE Fear, we actually have an option to deal with all these guys trying to res. And there you see with the with the friendly Templar, we get a great synchronized combo into that guy. He jumps off the edge to finish him off, and I'm going to hit the Fear here to stop this last res. The other guy jumps off the edge too, and we're just going to put pressure into the last guy here. The friendly Templar coming back up around the corner. This guy dies as he drops down, finishing off this player there that's going for the res. He does manage to get this guy up, but still, really great example of how the Fear is just really giving us the ability to take some of these bigger AoE fights that we weren't able to take before. And for the final clip, we have got a little bit of a longer fight for you guys. Starting off on this enemy resource, getting aggressive. These blue are just waiting on the resource, so I get really aggressive with Ghost and just go right away for the pressure, and that big fat rally heal coming in clutch there, and we go right on to the next target here. We hit him with the Fear, try to set a combo down, but he dodges it right away. Really good counterplay, and we take a lot of pressure, and there you see again the 15k rally heal. Exactly like I said in the build video, guys. We're going to get massive rally heals on this build, and it's a big reason why we can get away with some of this offensive pressure this patch. And here you see right away, we engage more blues. The first guy we dot up, get him with a great partial charged off balance stun, hit him with the combo there into the Executioner as he hits us with the stun, and we break it. Really nice kill on that guy, and we dot up the next Templar right away, block his incoming stun there, hit him with the Fear, hit him with a couple Executioners. He dodges the first one, and then he spears back into us, and we hit him with the Executioner before the attack even lands, and he goes down. And now we've got another blue player and 2 blue players in the back on top of us here. We just dot the first one up, and we got a fourth riding in on his horse as well, and I just kite back behind the rocks. We purge, reset our buffs again, and I'm going to come back up on this hill here just to give myself a little bit of height and see what the blue decide to do here. They don't chase, but they are spread. So we've got the single archer. He's set off balance. Get him with a beautiful partial charged heavy stun off the off balance into the ultimate. A beautiful kill on that guy, and we're just going to mist right out of there. Reset back behind the rock here, and it looks like just 2 players left. This guy's trying to res. We just dot him up right away, and we crit rush. He does the right move. He stops the res and rolls away and does not try to stick that res out. That's exactly what you want to do in this situation. And now we've got a Magicus Sork coming in as well. He throws the frags at us and streaks away, and I'm just going to kite back into the gully here and head back towards my rock. We don't have the best terrain to work with here, but the big saving grace of this terrain is there's a lot of height. So we don't have like a lot of tight little corners and stuff, but look at this height here. We can line of sight a lot of damage just by using this height, and that's exactly what we do. Is we just keep rotating around the top of this rock here, and the Sork follows us around the right, and we just go back through the Sork, and look at this. We've got just so much time to ourselves, and they're all standing on the other side here waiting for me to come out, and we're just going to be patient here. The Sork hits us with the streak, then comes back around. There's the dot up on the Sork. He is set off balance, so we're going to go for that partial charged bow heavy, and he does not come around the corner, and he's going into the overload heavy attack. This is where Sork is incredibly dangerous. We all know that the overload heavy attack overperforming like crazy this patch. If he hits us with 2 ticks of this, we could literally die instantly. So we just dot him up again, and I'm rotating on both sides of the Sork here as the rest of the players are very coy to engage, and the Sork taking a funky streak, getting a little stuck on the rock there, and as he slides down, we get him with the Fear, hit him with our ultimate, and we bring that enemy sorcerer down, and right away we dot up the next player with the lightning staff here, take a stun from the enemy Nightblade, we dodge his attack, the partial charged heavy attack to stun him with the off balance there, and then we crit rush into the other player to finish him off. Nice clean kill there. Quickly work the guard down, and an enemy Templar comes in. He starts the engagement by dotting us up right away. We're just going to purge off the negative effects. He does not purge. Now, he has the bubble on him, though, so the bubble's just giving him so much healing power. He's not taking any damage from our dots. We're just going to kite back around the rock here, reset our buffs, and re-engage with the Templar, but he ends up running inside, so we don't get the fight with him. And we're just going to head further towards the blue siege line here, and looks like they're trying to get through the mile gate. And yeah, lots of blue here. So I just jump around a little bit. We're looking for some targets, and an enemy sorcerer sees me here. We quickly hit him with the off-balance stun. Really nice stuff off that partial charged heavy. So important on Ghost to always be holding that partial charged heavy with your bow when you get the opportunity. There you see we have it again, and we hit him with, he's not off balance there, but just good practice to hit him with those partial charged heavies for when we have that opportunity. And the Sork here, fairly squishy. He's not keeping his shield up very well, but he's very aggressive coming into us. We try to get him with the stun there off the fear, but unfortunately we take the stun from his streak before we can fear him. We break it, and we're just going to kite back up to the rocks, and now we've got some terrain to fight these guys here. And another enemy sorcerer, a different one actually, ends up coming in here, streaking into us. We hit him with a nice fear there, partial charged heavy attack, and we're just going to roll through them. Actually, maybe the fully charged heavy there, just trying to get a little bit of resource back, and both the players engaging with us, and we're just continuously rotating around them. Not only is this great to mitigate damage because they're constantly having to turn around, they won't be able to target us as well, but we've got that camouflaged hunter. The camo hunter is going to make a big difference in our damage when the minor berserk comes up, so we just want to make sure that we can land as many crits as possible from behind. And there we see massive combo with the greatsword from behind there into the ultimate. The enemy Sork responding really well with his shields, but we're just going to keep the pressure up here, keep him dotted up, and we get another awesome fear into the executioner. And this is where I think we took the Sork out, because we ran fear. We feared his Twilight, and his Twilight could not heal him, and he tried to go for the heal there. So I have to think that our fear just ended up winning the fight against that Sork there. The enemy Templar runs away, and we're just going to quickly put a little bit of pressure into the low HP player there and finish him off and try to pull a few more guys off the siege line here. All right, so I'm going to let the rest of the fight play out for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the ending. It's a little funny, so hope you enjoy it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope that you liked this video. If you did, hit that like button. If you're new, hit that subscribe button. If you guys are interested in checking out live stuff from me, a link to my Twitch is down in the description below. If you guys want to send in any clips for the top 5 or send in a build to be featured on the channel, you guys can send that to KristoferESO@hotmail.com. We are sponsored by What the Fast. They're a VPN for gamers. They give me better ping to my favorite games, and they're free to try for the first 30 days. No credit card to sign up, so no harm, no foul if it doesn't give you guys what you're looking for. And last but not least, if you guys really love the show and you want to help support it, you can always become a patron on Patreon. Without your help, I would not be able to do this job that I love so much. So thank you guys so much just for tuning in. Thank you guys for helping out if you choose to do so. And that is it, guys. I hope you enjoyed again. Weird patch to be playing, but, you know, it is nice to be on this Templar and have that purge. Have a great night, guys.